We are starting off with our next session of today. And as we shift into the afternoon, we are more focusing on AI and semiconductors. Two areas that are fundamentally reshaping industries worldwide. So from AI governance to edge computing, today's discussions will highlight both the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. So kicking off this first segment, we have an insightful keynote on AI governance by Benjamin Cedric Larsen, who's an AI and machine learning lead at the World Economic Forum here in San Francisco. So with AI's rapid expansion, governance and ethical considerations are more critical than ever. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome up on stage Benjamin Cedric Larsen.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here and to talk about what I and what other believes will be a challenge and also an opportunity to really define what kind of future are we going to move towards. And that's linked to AI governance and how we're going to govern this transformative technology going forward. Perhaps to kick us off, let me start by asking everybody a question to get a sense of everybody and who's in the room. How many of you have adopted an AI process, system, or technology? Okay, so it's a majority of the room, actually. And how many of you also know that you have adopted an AI governance process or that you have AI governance mechanisms in place? So I'd say maybe it's a third of the people who actually raised their hands. But yeah, let's dive into it. Let's go into some of the challenges and some of the opportunities, and then see if I can convince you in the next 15 minutes or so to implement more AI governance across your organizations. So let's start with the big picture, why AI governance it matters. And I think over these last couple of years, we've all seen the transformative power of this technology. I think it's very clear from the numbers of areas where we see the application of these technologies and systems, for example, in drug discovery, in healthcare, in education, in finance, in tackling climate change. And there's so many more areas where this technology is currently being adopted, and we've all seen the transformative potential. But I think it's also clear that we've seen that there are also externalities associated with this technology. And that could be in the form of biased algorithms, could be in relation to biased hiring algorithms. It could play all the way up to national security in terms of how our electrical grids and so on are run, in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of many other aspects where you can have negative externalities associated with rapid diffusion that's not sufficiently mitigated. So the key question that I want to explore and talk about in this conversation is really, what does it take to ensure that we have a diffusion of AI technology that's governed to the extent where we know exactly what it is we adopt as an organization and how it will transform organization, but also the opportunities that it's going to drive across society. So let's kick off with the challenges. By 2030, AI, it could contribute upwards $15 trillion to the global economy. And this is an immense number, and that signifies some of the opportunities that is associated with this technology. But at the same time, what we're seeing currently is that trust in AI is declining. And why is that? According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, we've seen in the last 5 years, globally, trust in AI companies, it has decreased from 61% to 53%. And in the United States, that number is even lower. Only 35% of the population, they actually trust AI companies. So let's dive into some of the challenges and figure out why is that. If we look at the first challenge, frontier AI and AGI, I want to kick us off by talking about this notion of a pacing problem. I'm sure many of you must be familiar with that the technology is actually moving much faster than the underlying rules and regulations that is guiding its diffusion. If we think perhaps a few years back, we had very simple chatbots. But now we have very advanced systems that have reasoning capabilities, that have memory, that essentially we're moving into a phase where some of these systems, they can act as agents, as assistants, and they can help us across so many different surfaces. But when talking about AI, frontier AI, and AGI, I think it's also important to know that with increased agenticness, we essentially move into a stage where we're handing over a greater degree of trust to some of these systems, which, unless we absolutely know and are aware of when and how a certain action and decision were made, then that trust, it could also go wrong unless you have a human in the loop and unless you have some kind of human oversight. That's the added risk. There's also the opportunity for potential misalignment. Let's say that I have a task and I hand it over to an agent. The system, it then takes this task and it goes out into the world and it does and finishes a job. But then actually that was completely unaligned with my intentions for this job. And therefore, what is happening is that, oh, that did not meet my expectations, or that could have actual externalities if it goes out and does something completely different and unintended. And that's essentially the national security concerns. I think we've all played around with frontier AI models, but some of these models, unless the necessary guardrails are in place, they can also be misused, for example, to produce lethal pathogens. So that's essentially some of the chem bio risks associated with some of these systems, and that's feeding all the way up to national security concerns, as we heard a little bit about in the previous panel. The second key challenge that I want to talk about, that is regulatory fragmentation. So in the European Union, we have the AI Act that takes a risk-based approach and lays out different risk categories and levels of risk. In the US, we have voluntary guidelines, and I think some of the guidelines that we saw in the Biden-era administration, the Bill of Rights, an executive order on this topic, they've also been rolled back, essentially. And that means that in the US, we're doubling down on this notion of we need voluntary guidelines and systems in place to govern the diffusion of this technology. And then in China, you have a licensing-based regime where developers and adopters of this technology, they need to obtain a license before they can even begin to implement some of these systems, at least when it comes to frontier AI. So what are the implications of this? Well, if you're from the private sector side and you're an international company and you have global markets, of course there is a real challenge here in terms of compliance. The cost of compliance, if you have very different regimes, essentially, they could be very burdensome. But even more so, I think underlying these different regimes that are currently emerging is that what we could see essentially is this notion of different safety standards that would develop, whether you're in the EU, in the US, in China, or elsewhere. And that means that it's not only in terms of compliance that these costs will be driven up, but it's also in terms of how do we even agree on what constitutes safe AI. The second challenge or the third challenge that I want to highlight is linked to accountability and transparency. And I think here a key question to ask is, when something goes wrong with an AI system, then who's liable? Is it the developer? Is it the adopter? Is it the end user? Is it someone entirely different? And I think that is not always clear. And many AI systems, they continue to operate as black boxes, essentially. So let's say that I go to my AI agent, it performs a certain action, it didn't meet my expectations, and that means that essentially the system, it would be misaligned. So that means that I don't have transparency in terms of when and where was a wrong decision, where was that made? So let's say that I'm using a hiring algorithm, for example, and it has a biased outcome. Then am I, as an adopter, am I responsible? Or is it really the developer of this system? And here I think a key example that I want to mention, and some of you may have heard of it, but that's the example of Air Canada last year. So Air Canada, they rolled out a chatbot. It was linked to a generative AI system. It provided wrong advice to a client, a customer. The customer then ended up suing Air Canada. They said, we're not liable. We didn't develop this system. But essentially the court, it said, yes, you are liable. You were the ones who adopted and implemented this system. And that speaks to this need for having clear mechanisms for seeking redress, essentially. So that is accountability, transparency, and need to seek redress when something goes wrong. That these are some of the challenges that currently exist. But AI governance, it's not only about mitigating risks. I think even more important than anything, it's really about the opportunities. Ensuring that when you have a governance framework in place, that you can actually know exactly what you're adopting and that you can reach into the full potential of this technology because you've already carefully mitigated any potential risks and you have the right kind of guardrails in place. So let's talk about some of the opportunities here. The first opportunity that I want to stress is really this need for global collaboration. And that takes a multi-stakeholder approach at the international level that is getting different policymakers together, that is getting the public sector, the private sector, civil society, and academia together in the same room to discuss some of these challenges and opportunities as well. And at the World Economic Forum, at the United Nations, at the OECD, and at other organizations, we've been working on creating the right kind of principles, creating a foundation in terms of what constitutes good governance. And we continue to build on this foundation now. At the World Economic Forum, for example, we have what's called the AI Governance Alliance, which is uniting 600 stakeholders across the globe, so from China, Europe, the US, and many, many other countries. And we're debating some of the most thorny challenges, but also opportunities in AI. And that goes all the way from development and safety towards application across sectors and industries, all the way up to governance, regulation, inclusive AI, and international development. And it takes public-private partnerships to get there. The second opportunity that I want to highlight is linked to AI safety and alignment. And here I want to stress this important point of it takes continued investment into the right kind of mechanisms to ensure that when you as organizations adopt the right kind of tools that are going to transform your organizations, that are going to augment your workers and so on, that this investment into safety that it already has been done. And that could be everything from AI audits to red teaming to reinforcement learning from human or AI feedback and so on, or even towards new mechanisms such as constitutional AI, which is developed by Anthropic, and is essentially a way of baking ethics into the technology from the earliest stage of development. And then there's also this need to ensure that what do we measure against? What kind of benchmarks do we create and what do we measure against? Because when you have a technology that's developing so rapidly, many of the benchmarks that we currently have, they would be outdated in 6 months or so. So what does it mean to develop meaningful benchmarks, not only for the developers, but also for the adopters and also for the public sector? And that's another opportunity for actors to get together. The third opportunity that I want to mention here, that's adaptive governance, or more agile regulation, and what that looks like. Because again, going back to this notion of a pacing problem, the technology is moving so rapidly that innovation, it should not only happen in the private sector. Innovation, it also needs to happen in the public sector in terms of the underlying rules and regulations, ensuring that we don't simply have static rules to guide the ongoing diffusion of this technology, but that innovation is also a paradigm that's being embraced exactly by the public sector, ensuring that we have more flexible, more adaptive approaches. And I think regulatory sandboxes is one approach where you really have the public and private sector getting together and you figure out what is a meaningful way to test and evaluate some of these systems before they're full-scale rolled out to the market, and how can the public sector also learn from that co-creation, from that phase of co-governance, essentially. So I want to leave you all here with a call to action, and that's linked to governing AI for good. So I think it's very clear that we stand at a transformative moment in time where the ongoing diffusion of frontier models, of generative AI, of artificial general intelligence, of AI agents will have profound impacts on society. And it doesn't matter if you're in the US, in Europe, in Scandinavia, in China, or anywhere else. Like, the transformative potential is there, the impacts will be there, but have we thought about what kind of impact do we want this system or this general purpose technology to have? And I think that's where the call to action that I want to leave you all with here today is, when you continue to adopt AI into your organizations, and think carefully about a few things, such as how are workers, how are they augmented? And how is this technology, this group, these systems, how is that a force for good, not only within an organization, but also as organizations, they transform, and as we have an increasing amount of agents that are co-creating with us within organizations, then what is the downstream impact on society? And here I think it's very important to remember that governing AI for good, it starts and ends with all of us. Because towards the end of the day, technology is not neutral. Because we always have it in a context. We always apply it in a context. And how we choose to deploy it determines whether it will continue to be a force for good. So thank you so much for listening. And if you want to learn more about the AI Governance Alliance, then please feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to get in touch. Thank you.
We proceed to our next panel, Succeeding with AI in the Cloud and on the Edge. I am honored to introduce our panel moderator. She is a true leader in the intersection of AI, industry, and academia. 73 research papers, 28 patents, AI and generative AI lead at Accenture, autonomous technology at Volvo Cars USA, co-founder of Fourth Brain, an AI edtech startup, currently the engineering lead for sequence learning at Meta, and she has also dedicated herself to academia. Tenure track professor at the University of Washington, adjunct professor at Santa Clara University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome up on stage Dr. Sohini Roychowdhury.
So thank you everybody for joining us today. I know sessions after lunch can be a little intimidating, and I completely understand if it's not worthy. But I think we have an amazing set of panelists who want to talk about the whole journey and how AI has come here and what's the way forward. So let's introduce our wonderful panelists, and we'll start off with an icebreaker question. So the icebreaker question would be, first, please introduce yourself, the company, the product, if you are very interested about it. And what I would like to know is, can you tell me about the most memorable or most recent aha or proud moment about AI? Or, if you wish, just share with us your best quote about AI that you find most resonates with you. We'll start with you, Daryl.
Hi, my name is Daryl Weatherspoon. I'm the CTO at Aquabyte. I'm going to do a pitch in a moment, so I'm not going to steal my own thunder. So I'll tell you about Aquabyte in a little bit. I think I had a small AI aha moment. Our product is a computer vision-based product, so there are a lot of images. We work in the aquaculture space and with fish farmers. And we provide a ton of data to our customers, lots and lots of data. And it took a couple of years to kind of figure this out. But our customers, even though they don't need to see the imagery, they really want to see the imagery of the data that you're providing. They could completely do their jobs without any imagery. But it gets to this whole idea that Benjamin was talking about related to pacing and the adoption of AI, pacing in a different respect, but still pacing nonetheless, where our customers really they recognize that it's an AI product, and to bring them along, they really want to see, we're kind of in this show me phase of product development. So it's a bit of an aha moment within the last 18 months or so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Par.
Yeah, so my name is Per Håkansson. So I work at the Nordic Semiconductor in the corporate strategy there. So Nordic Semiconductor, we are sort of famous for low-power wireless chipsets. So we do Bluetooth Low Energy, Wi-Fi, cellular chipsets, all with a focus of ultra-low power. So if you have a wireless keyboard mouse or some health sensor and something like that, it could be a Nordic chipset inside. Awesome. Or it's very likely. We sell hundreds of millions every year. And we see AI coming also to so typically it's a radio, it's a microcontroller, memory, peripherals, and so on.
Awesome.
And I think we have an offering around sort of edge AI, where we have the chipsets, and then we have a full solution, sort of end-to-end, where our customers can build their products in a easy way. I think that's my proud moment over the last years, is when we released that, to make it easy for our customers to develop AI products, basically.
Absolutely. Accessibility is at the heart of AI right now.
Yeah.
Is it accessible to people? Absolutely. On
Yeah, so
point.
we have thousands of customers, and to make it easy for them, that's something we worked hard on.
Awesome. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Valerie.
I am
Yeah, it's on.
I'm Valerie Chan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Persimmons. We're the opposite of Nordic. We do not have thousands of customers yet, but we will. We are based off of inference systems, hardware systems based off custom chiplet form factors. Our aha moment came when an investor came to us and actually gave us a little credibility from NVIDIA. The former chief scientist of NVIDIA actually invested in us, and we were very proud of that, and I think heading in that
Awesome.
really awesome direction.
Thank you so much for being here today, Valerie. Babak.
Hi, I'm Babak Sultanian. I am a founder and CEO of Tayan.ai. We are in stealth mode, but what I can say that we are building a new platform to accelerate semiconductor chip design, and especially for AI processors. And as of those questions, I go with the quote. I think the quote that resonates most with me is AI is the new species.
That's true. And that's why there's a lot of skepticism as well as enthusiasm. I think that's where we balance the very fine line, skepticism versus what is the really promise around it. So let's get to the main discussion for today. Let's start by understanding the journey of AI, right? In the last 5 years, there's been a huge amount of discussion and a lot of great novelty and inventions that have come with regards to the domain of AI, be it in the cloud, be it accessibility, be it hardware. So Daryl, can you talk to how you see the awareness regarding AI has changed among the people? And how do you typically address it if there are concerns?
Yeah, I think this kind of is connected a bit to my aha moment, but 90+% of the population is aware, at least in the Western world, is aware of AI at this point, right? So it's not a surprise to anybody. And really, like I said, it's about, we're in this phase where, and again, coming back to what Benjamin was saying earlier, there's a lot more trepidation now about AI. So how do you bring folks along? And I think about that a lot in the products that we're developing. We have an enterprise application, but as people are coming into contact with that application and recognizing that there's an AI engine behind it, they're questioning that, the validity of it, wanting to test it, because it's really replacing some of the functions that humans used to do.
Yeah.
And so really, we're in this phase where we just have to bring people along step by step, sort of taking them through their normal workflow and showing them their normal workflow side by side with the AI workflow.
Agreed.
And presenting that to them.
So what would you say is your vision? Do you still believe in human in the loop in some shape or format? Or do you still say that it should be, or it could be, fully automated whatsoever?
Oh, it'll be fully automated. I mean, human in the loop is a necessity right now, but it won't be a necessity forever.
Well, that's the direction we are all taking.
Yeah.
All right, now let's get to balancing some of the benefits versus concerns. Of course, like we talked about, there's a lot of give and a lot of potential in AI. But again, we just heard about the last session that there's a lot of concerns in the minds as well. So of course, faster decisions, cost savings, personalization. Apparently 2025 is supposed to be the year of personalization. But what are some of the gotchas that you think are mostly unappreciated? Valerie, why don't we start with you?
I think in terms of the models themselves, right, there's going to be a lot of biases that may be introduced, that we don't have a single source of truth, which is a concern, in our opinion. And then also basic infrastructure, right? As you enable all of this innovation and data centers and edge devices, again, you have energy concerns, you have enablement concerns of democratizing versus in the hands of a few. So I think those are two of our major concerns when we see, yes, AI will do great things, but can we actually make sure that it doesn't get into the wrong path?
Okay. So do you think scaling would be the right way, or it should be scaled in phases? Because just as you said, too many people too soon, is that too bad? Or how should the approach be?
Good question. Scaling, I think, at a good pace, but yes, letting it just go in chaos, then no. Right? I think there still needs to be some control or kind of discipline.
Absolutely. Anybody else would love to chime in on the topic about the concerns that you do see in and around AI, maybe on the chip, or with regards to the cloud environment?
I can add something. I would say the main concern that I have is we lose our creativity and skills. I think,
Interesting.
because as AI advances and we delegate more and more of the work to AI, we may lose our skills and creativity. So that's my worry.
Makes sense. And that's what I think a lot of folks in education, in universities, faculty, that's what the main major concern is. Are the kids really learning to write, or are they using ChatGPT? So in that case, how do you even go and score something like that? Are you really taking away creativity, or can you reshape it into something else? Maybe today it's the one skill, which is writing, that you're focusing on, but can you reshape that into something else? And that's the something else we're all trying to get into, I guess.
I guess I would also say my concern with AI is just really around the nature of truth. And we're entering a world where discerning the truth is much more difficult.
Agreed.
Than it's previously been.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why in some cases human in the loop is still a solution.
Yeah.
And the others, with the agentic approach, some of the solutions that at least most of the major companies do, they're using LLM as a judge. So let's say if you have a question and answer, can you invoke certain other agents and then see, it's crowdsourcing essentially.
Sure.
If you don't know the ground truth, let's crowdsource it. If the majority of the people say one thing, probably it's on the right side rather than being negative. But again, you're right. In certain discerning cases where it's a one-off, who do you trust? Right. So trustworthiness, there's definitely concern around it.
But so in Nordic, we have one AI assistant that's sort of for our customers and also for myself. I use it a lot. Sort of with all our knowledge database, we have a forum with a lot of questions and answers. So in that agent or assistant, you always get sort of also the references. Where did I find this information? So you can click, go, move on.
Right.
That's
Explainability.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's something I like with these kind of things.
So that's a great segue into the contrarian take then. So what are some of the common misconceptions regarding AI in cloud and edge? And so I know we talked about it, but with regards to a specific industry, let's say for hardware or for cloud, do you see some misconceptions that are specific to domains like that?
I can add something to that. So what I have heard so far, so one of them is AI processors are so power hungry, we cannot deploy them at edge,
There you go.
which is not true. I think now there is a lot of innovation in this domain. We see a new
DeepSeek.
big list of new products coming to the market. Another one that I have heard is, so we always need a connection to the cloud for the edge devices to, say, retrain the models or update the models and so on, but that's not true. Also, we have kind of on-device learning, and those kind of features that make it unnecessary to be connected to the cloud all the time. But overall, in my opinion, I think we will see a lot of hybrid cases that we need cloud and also edge, and it doesn't mean that it must be either or. So both of them are going to explode, and both of them are going to grow, and they will have their own applications and usage, in my opinion.
Perfect. So hybrid domain is more what we're going towards, rather than saying cloud only or edge only.
Right.
It's probably going to be the composite, right? So the what now? Let's talk about that factor. So AI has been around for decades. and then some of the interesting directions that you are seeing. What are some of the new directions, new patterns? You just mentioned about that, Babak, that you're seeing hybrid innovations. Are there specific use cases or domains that you see particularly are going to become more, which is going to embrace AI more, or some domains that are going to reject AI more?
Great question. So I just say what I have in mind. Definitely, there are so many applications. So the way I see it, especially in the domain of physical AI, I see basically more of humanoids, those kind of products coming to the market. And to add to that, I watch a lot of sci-fi movies and TV series. So there was one from 70s called $6 Million Man.
Right.
So it's a bionic man, probably many of you have seen it. So for a very long time, that was just sci-fi and nothing just real. But I see that coming, in near future. So.
Agreed. Touche to that. Would you like to add something to it, Par? Some new directions that you're seeing?
Yeah, so we at Nordic, so as I said, we are famous for sort of low power. Most of our devices, they are powered from a small battery. So we're taking a very different path compared to Valerie here with compute power. So we focus on low power. And that's also something we have a lot of customers investing in that area for predictive maintenance, health devices, fall detection, a lot of where you have a sensor. And you do it on the edge because you cannot be connected all the time. And a lot of these applications, you cannot rely that you are connected to the cloud. So you need to do it locally on the edge. So sort of always on AI, battery powered, that's the problem we are trying to solve.
Of course, power is going to be, and that was the first thing, I think even when ChatGPT was launched, most folks, that's where their concern was, is how on earth is there going to be enough power to power all of these use cases that every single company wants their own licensed version of ChatGPT 4. Is there even enough power in the whole world to power something like that? But now with DeepSeek, what we see is you can have fine-tuning on a very small budget is definitely feasible. So that's the reason why. That's the give. It's not just one versus the other. It's actually hybrid. That's the directions we're going towards.
And one thing you could add, also sending all the data up to the cloud is expensive. It costs a lot of energy. And also it, of course, adds to latency. For a lot of these applications, you need to do it fast.
Yep.
So at the edge is where you make the decision and where you sort of act on the decision.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think you'll see, the trend where AI is just in its infancy, really, right? And over time, you'll see applications get pushed on the edge. There's a real opportunity now. I think, Valerie, you're probably going to contribute in this way. Your company will, but there'll be you'll see hardware innovation. We'll see the inference density effectively increase over time. That will enable hardware applications to handle some pretty sizable models on the edge. That I think is inevitable. I don't know the time frame of it, but it's a little hard to predict at this point. But it's pretty clear that that's what's going to happen.
Step towards AGI.
I'll just add a little in terms of, AI at the edge and AI in general. It's not a one-size-fits-all market. So yes, you're going to have flexibility. We are going to have low power, by the way.
Sorry.
We can fit in an elbow in a robot. But yes, it's about can you innovate and enable all the areas that AI will be prevalent in.
Awesome. Now let's learn about how AI is for all and learn through the panelists' journeys and experiences. So could you tell me about the unique selling point? One way your products are at a vantage point from everything else on the market, or some of the success story spotlights that you'd like to share with the folks today. Let's start with you, Daryl.
I think, at Aquabyte, again, I'm going to steal my own thunder here. We build this underwater camera platform, and we're really able to see things in the fish farming community that have only been hypothesized or studied in an academic setting. And now we have massive amounts of data. So we can prove or disprove various hypotheses and help farmers make really important decisions for their businesses. And so we're really at this kind of real inflection point in the industry. The industry has been trying out technology for a long time, and they've finally gotten to the point to trust the technology. And that's been gratifying to see develop over the last 5 years or so. But yeah, we're going to start to see a rapid adoption of how do you farm, finfish, and look at massive amounts of data to make it a sustainable practice and to optimize the growth and well-being of a cohort of fish.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trust and adoption. There's
Yep.
always at the crux of every product around, the developers that they have in their mind. Park.
Yeah, so I think for Nordic, as I have sort of repeating myself a little bit, but we see every generation we release, so our customers are developing sensors or gadgets, whatever. We see the compute power goes up, the power consumption goes down. And also in this sort of very low-cost type chipsets we are in, we also see that there are coming more sort of accelerators that you really leapfrogging sort of power consumption and compute power that you need to run these better and better, bigger models for more accuracy of your.
So do you support more bigger models or smaller models, or it's use case by use case?
I think, as most people know AI, it's small models, what we do. Nevertheless, I think it solves a lot of problems, like I said, in the medical space. We have customers in predictive maintenance, where you sort of monitor and find out what's the problem with this machine or something, and keyword spotting and these kind of applications.
Absolutely, and that's been, I think, the crux point at which the edge devices now have the vantage point because of the inception of the smaller models. Because earlier everybody was thinking, oh, bigger, larger, better, but that's not always the case. Smaller models actually have a huge potential in dealing with most of the use cases that are presented in the day-to-day. Valerie, would you like to talk about?
So we actually believe in giant models,
Okay.
trillion parameter
There you
models. I'll use an example of a cybersecurity company we're working with. They get 3 billion tokens a day.
Okay.
They have no way of training, processing, running of that. So, in our flexibility, you can say that is a R&D kind of project they want to work on. They don't need the latency under 1 second. They don't need, any of that kind of time to first token kind of thing. They're just looking for a way to train and process their proprietary data. So we're able to do that on-prem because they don't want that data in the cloud. But then they also have 2 other use cases where it is user-facing, so 200 milliseconds or under, or 1 second or under, different objectives. So I think that is a key in terms of, different types of models where user-facing, yes, you can do the smaller model or part of that model kind of thing where you can get that time to first token quickly and
Makes
then
sense.
train on the other
Absolutely.
side.
Complex decision-making, multimodality, you have to have the larger models so that you're not going off the rails. Absolutely. Baba.
So the use case that we are working on is we are building an AI platform for microchip design. And so basically Valerie and Paul, they know that if you want to design a microchip, it takes about 2 years from the time you start till it's finished. So we are using AI to make it shorter and faster, and that's going to help also with the variety of products that you can generate because of the limited resources, you can just design very limited number of products.
So that's pretty much what the core, I think, of the discussion we are all driving at is resources are limited, use cases are many, there are multiple ways of getting there, and we're all going to get there sooner or later, but together we're probably going to get there faster. That's the moral of the story, to sum it up. All right, so closing thoughts. We just wanted to get to, call to action. If you could summarize in one word, what's the value of AI to you and your company?
Oh my
Or
goodness.
if you would like to just say one thing that you're looking ahead to with regards to AI. Any one of these, if you could share with us. Daryl.
One word?
Sure.
The value of AI.
Or a phrase would do as well.
Okay, my one word would be indispensable.
Okay. Awesome. Par?
Yeah, one word. So I think in Nordic it's everywhere.
Okay.
So we enable our customers to develop products using AI, but we also use it a lot internally. And with our customers to, like I said, this AI assistant, but also in our internal processes. So it's getting everywhere.
Ubiquitous. Absolutely. It's everywhere.
Our one word is enablement.
Enablement. Absolutely. That's totally in part of where it's going right now. Baba.
I would say empowering.
Of course, empowering and taking everybody together, I think that's what's going to open the doors faster, rather than saying, okay, some people get to build while the others just watch. I don't think the world is there anymore. So if we want to close and say one piece of advice that you would like to give to maybe new entrepreneurs or anybody who's even thinking of dabbling into AI, what would be one piece of advice that you would like to leave our folks today with?
Start again. Yeah. I'll start. I think that the tooling for AI is moving so fast, and
That's what I was going to say.
is that right? I mean, I think he's working on new tooling, right? And
I have the advantage, I can.
So if I was, I've been at Aquabyte for almost 6 years. If I was starting this company today, it would be a completely different tool flow,
infrastructure. Absolutely.
even from 2 years ago.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
So just folks need to don't do what was done if you were starting a company today. Figure out what's current and use that.
That's absolutely on point. Par.
Yeah.
Same thing, tooling.
Yeah, I agree. That's,
Absolutely new tooling.
You have a very,
I would say as a startup, I would use Jensen's quote as prepare for pain and suffering, but also prepare to be flexible and agile.
Absolutely.
And I would add, probably don't lose your identity. It's very easy to get lost into this AI and become like everybody else.
Absolutely. So if you connect the dots together, it's like there's new tooling, but you cannot lose your identity. It's very important to be at the right place at the right time, which again can sometimes give, okay, what does that really mean? But we have a community of AI around us. So it's always important to reach out when in doubt, make sure that you crowdsource or you seek expert support whenever in doubt, right? Thank you so much for being here, and a big round of applause for our great panelists.
Thank you so much, dear panel. We're asking you to stay seated. And we will now continue with our next rounds of company pitches.
Good day, everyone. My name is Majid Halmi. I am the CEO and founder of newcode.ai. And think about this. Norway's largest law firms, a US-based law firm, and the Norwegian government have entrusted us to unleash our AI into their systems full of confidential and sensitive data. I'm an associate professor with a PhD in AI. Our team of 4 PhDs and 11 engineers has been shaping the landscape of AI with over 15,000 citations. We don't just research AI, we build it. Unlike our competitors, we deploy our system on-prem or on cloud so that the users have full control over their data. AI is integrated into their systems where they can see and use it where they want and when they want it. The results, we crossed $1 million last year, and if you want to see it in action, please stop by our booth and we will show you how we're changing the legal industry forever. Thank you.
Okay, so some natural intelligence lacking there, I'm afraid. So 50% of commercially valuable inventions do not get protected by patents. This is due to a complex and expensive and time-consuming process. The patent industry and the patent process as it exists today has largely remained the same for 150 years. I'm not 150 years old, but I have been working in the industry for 20 years, and I've been working with startups and scale-ups to protect their technology, and I've seen these pains. So, Lightbringer is determined to revolutionize this. We are offering we are the Office 365 of the patent process. We offer a platform to discover and develop your patent strategy, to record your inventions and develop your patent documents and file them and management through to grant, and to explore your competitor patents. Our customers love the process. We've been told by a number of customers, this is the way, and we're growing very, very fast. So if you have technology to protect, please come and talk to me. Thank you.
Is it still on? Yep, it is. So as you gathered from my talk earlier, Aquabyte builds and designs underwater camera and sensor technology that basically allows farmers to toss out their almanacs. With the algorithms that we have running on top of our platform, we're able to unlock data that was really previously unattainable. And so farmers are using this data to make critical decisions for their business, and these decisions really have massive financial impacts on their operations. So we're in 6 of the 7 largest fish farming companies in the world, and we've used those relationships to build out a SaaS platform that has enabled us to scale. And last year alone, we grew at almost 140%. And we've done this by building a team of computer vision and ML engineers here in the US, but we've partnered with biologists and fish farming experts in our headquarters in Norway. So if you'd like to hear more about it, again, I'm Darryl Weatherspoon. I'm the CTO at Aquabyte, and please find me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leo. I'm the founder of AlphaLens, and we are building the new front door to private markets. You see, you can't really tell much about a movie from its title, yet that is the status quo of private market data today. It's company-centric, yet competition happens at the product level. So whilst PitchBook and Co. can tell you a lot about what a company has in terms of cap table, in terms of LinkedIn profile, we can tell you what they actually make. And we've indexed that in our own proprietary VectorDB that allows you to do natural language search. So by extension, we can tell you who looks similar, and you can reverse engineer a market map by ICP. There's so much that you can do when you open up that new front door to private markets. Our vision is that this is the new area of small and micro companies. It's never been easier to build one, and directories simply won't cut it. So we are producing the Google moment for private markets. Thank you.